I'm sliding out of here. See you later.
Okay.
Peter.
Did that work?
No.
You don't have the host skill?
I'm talking. Oh, yes, I do now. Okay. No, I don't. No, I don't. No.
Okay.
Yes, I do. There it is.
Okay.
Golly. Okay, I think she said you could go ahead with the live stream.
All right. Well, can everybody hear me? I was about you shoot some emojis. I see some emojis. That is great. Good to know you can hear me. I am very happy to be part of this event and happy you're here to learn a bit more about a project that I've been doing on augmented reality pedagogy with my students. Before I begin, I did want to really acknowledge everyone who's participated in this international summit. It's been such a great learning opportunity for me, an excellent networking opportunity, and I think such a blueprint of what's to come. Yeah, I see some hearts. That's I have them too. Just really grateful for the opportunity to be here and to present. So a couple of things about me. My name is Paula, and here's a picture of my dear son who just really loves VR. I work at the University of Saskatchewan. I have a faculty position in educational technology and learning design. Things that are really important to me, I put 4 words on the screen that are equity, diversity, inclusion, and creativity. So these are things that I will talk about in this session. They are themes that underlie all of the research that I do and the teaching that I do, and on a personal level, they matter to me also. So looking at some definitions, my presentation is focused on augmented reality, and here we are at a summit that's, there are a lot of more high-tech solutions. This augmented reality project that I'll tell you about is important to me because it is something that has a low barrier, so I can do it with all of the students and all of the classes that I teach, and it's also applicable for learners who are in middle school, high school, so it gives more students the opportunities to be the coders, creators, and makers of immersive worlds. So looking at augmented reality, a couple of examples. Does anybody happen to know what the red symbol is? I see someone. Let's see. How do I've got one hand, just one hand. It is actually an augmented reality app called PhotoMath, and it will do your math for you. So you can type equations, you can write equations with your hands, you can do advanced calculus, and it will actually do all of the calculations and steps and give the answer. Pokemon Go is another good example of augmented reality. If you want something really fun to do, go and test drive the new Land Rover, the Range Rover Discovery, and it has augmented reality smart technology in the vehicle. So you can hover over things and manuals pop up. The windshield also has many of the driver controls right in the windshield. So it's quite interesting. But so we are looking at actions in the real world that are enhanced by images, sounds, animations, videos, GPS data, and haptic feedback. Augmented reality pedagogy. So this is taking what we know about augmented reality and adding in art, method, practice of teaching to create augmented reality experiences. So this involves the user interface, involves the user experience. It involves interactions between teachers, students, a learning environment, curriculum goals, learning tasks. You see a photo here that is some of my students, and all of the slides that you will see have photos of my students, or else they are examples of my students' artwork. This slide has a bit much information, but I wanted to show you the different values and constraints of augmented reality pedagogy. These slides interest you. They're also publicly available in the slide deck for educators in VR. There's on slides.com. You can look, the address is right down there. And the values and constraints that are up here, they are things that I'm constantly thinking about as an educator and an educator of teachers. So this doesn't just involve the students I teach, but then because I teach teachers, they go into the classroom and are also taking what they've learned in my courses into the schools. So I'm always looking at ways of getting students to be creators and makers of technology. And it isn't about a specific tool or technique. It really is about freedom and the freedom that we all have to create with technology and to get into different worlds. So I think a lot about these things and how we can make things more accessible and how we can have low barrier entry points that also have high ceiling for students to be challenged. At the bottom here, I have this collective cognitive responsibility. And by that, I mean, in my courses, something I really value is when we are all responsible for learning and responsible for teaching each other. So that's something that I really value and want to put into my teaching practice. Some things that are constraints around technology, this would be for anyone who's in the education industry. Big number one is unreliable internet access. So when you're doing things that involve a lot of internet, it can be problematic. Labs and devices are expensive. Students often lack technological self-efficacy. This is the sense that yes, they can create and they can develop with technology. Ed tech teachers, they often lack training. There's not a lot of support for teachers in terms of learning a lot of advanced new technologies, and the technologies keep changing rapidly, so it's a constraint because it's hard to keep up. And time to create new lessons takes time. So from thinking about all those things, that's where I came up with this idea for a different assignment, an augmented reality design assignment. And so far I've done this with 144 students. First thing I have to say is my students love this assignment. I started it as just a project to be a bit more leading edge and try it out, see what would happen. But because students really like it, I've enhanced it over time. And basically the goal is quite simple, is that students need to create and curate an augmented reality experience around the terms in the courses I teach. So because I teach in ed tech, we have many courses, many terms like machine learning, artificial intelligence, intelligent tutoring systems, design thinking, flipped classroom. We have inquiry-based learning. So we have a lot of different terms, and I'm not fully convinced that all my students know all of these terms, even the difference between augmented reality, mixed reality, extended reality, virtual reality. And the meanings of these terms keep changing. So the intent of this is to actually curate an experience around these terms and put it into an augmented reality form. It's very open, very scalable. I do it with undergrad students, with teachers. I do it with also my grad students. The design process is quite simple in that you start by choosing a keyword, you create a zap code, and then you create a tracking image, you curate some content, create your scenes. and be a critical friend, which means that we evaluate and give feedback to each other. We also help each other with technical challenges. And then you teach your keyword to peers. So we used an app called ZapWorks. There are other augmented reality programs out there. What you see on the screen over here is actually the interface. So it's quite simple. It's not much more complicated than creating a PowerPoint, in that you're dragging and dropping in photos or slideshows of photos, videos. You might want to have transitions that lets content fade in and out. So the real learning happens is in the research, the curating the experience, and then thinking about how you're going to tell a story. How are you going to make a term come to life? So the tech part is actually not a barrier for most of the students. The creativity part is. In terms of evaluating this assignment, it's meant to be an assignment where we're really unpacking these terms. So we do look at some at the coding, but it's only just one part of it. The design principles is very important. The challenge, so the wow factor and how much that students put into their storytelling, what's the educational value. These are just some of the things that I look at. And now that you have a little bit of a sense, I want to give you a demonstration. So I actually have 4, and I made little clips, and I'll probably talk over the clips just so you can get a sense of actually what I'm talking about. So here's the term immersive education. We talked about this. What exactly is it? So again, my students are now charged to curate an experience and to teach about what it is. So some of the images track to the tracking image, and some of them actually you can move around. I'm just on the wall because it was the easiest way for me to do the demo. But you can see this part is just a lot of, YouTube is timing out, different information on immersive education. What are the benefits? What are different cognitive advantages? You can click on all of those or keep scrolling through. What I'm trying to show you in this clip is the depth of learning that students put into curating an experience around defining a term. So the different buttons will have different pathways to explore. So herein you can click on these buttons and get more information. I'm just going through quickly to give a demo so you can get a broad scope of the amount of content that will go in. So now here on the world, this is the more experiential part. You can go to different places in the world and experience. And so this is an example of immersive education. Looks like Vietnam in these photos. So here's a different example. So I did pick 4 different ones just so you get a sense of the diversity and creativity that students put into their projects. So here's digital literacy, something we also talk about. What exactly is it? So 2 very brilliant students teamed up to create this one. And there's a series of rotating spheres that have information, just coming up from the internet. So these elements come from research on digital literacy. So what they've done is put it in a form that we can actually look at the different elements and cognitively think about them. in a way that we make sense of the term and different elements that are involved with digital literacy. So you can put it in quotes, you can put in, there's so many different ways to actually tell a personal narrative and story that's around a term. I see some hearts, that's nice to see. Now I see a few more hearts. Yet another example, so here is digital storytelling. So if you were going to create an experience or to try to teach around digital storytelling, what is it? How would you do it? This is an example of how Sarah and Jaden did it, is they actually tell a story from the perspective of a cat. And here's my son who's going to take us through this journey. So you can hear the music in the background. And what you see coming in are different parts of digital storytelling. You need emotional connection. You need to also provide meaningful content. Perhaps a powerful soundtrack. So again, we're looking at how to slow down a term so that we really look at the different elements of it. And the cat, there's a narrative about the cat, which each of the terms. Pacing, been a little slow, so we'll pick it up. And here my son's going to just kind of end the story, and then you can go back to the main menu. And as many times as you want, you can explore the different pathways and content that's in there. Final example is, this one is on cells. And a teacher created this because she wanted to make this for her class so they could learn a bit more about cells. And then after they're done, she's embedded in a quiz for review, and there's a video to reinforce some of the learning. So again, there's just different pathways that you can build in. And many of these terms also link to other content that's excellent. So the students are charged to actually curate what would be a meaningful experience to learn about these terms. What's exciting for me is I have about 10 different terms on game-based learning, and they're all different. They all have these just different wonderful interpretations, and I think it's quite fabulous. I have been doing some research around this project, which actually just started as an innovative course assignment, but because it falls into the category of assignments I love, as opposed to that category of assignments I hated. I think we all have some experience there of those assignments that we were forced to do and didn't have as much joy in it. So I'm doing some research around the best practices and design principles that we're teaching with students how to do augmented reality, and then also how it enriches a course curriculum, because something I've really found is that by doing this assignment together, it really makes students responsible for learning in a way that they're teaching each other the terms, and it's a way that we build community in my courses. A few student learning improvements that I've noted is, one, it makes EdTech keywords come to life instead of just being these terms that are hard to understand or make sense of. The students kind of make an interpretation, and through their lens, we get to see what the just a different way of experiencing the terms beyond just a word definition. It empowers students to be knowledge curators, creators, communicators, all those wonderful things that we love in 21st century learning. Inspires a culture of inquiry and increases student ownership and actually pride in their work. Students share this work with other people and tell their friends about it. And I know they do because they come back and show me other codes they've created for other courses. A few other things that I've noticed is with this particular project, it is a very low floor. So meaning everybody can create something and will be successful, which is something also important to me in terms of equity and in terms of inclusion. But it does have a high ceiling because all learners can be challenged. You can actually do like 3D modeling and some very advanced projects in here too. Students also become holders of knowledge and they take responsibility for their peers' learning. And it's valuable for generating a collaborative spirit and sense of belonging in my courses. Let me just move here because I can't quite see. I'm going to jump over here. So a few comments, I didn't want to put too many, but some things that students are saying is they really enjoy this idea of playing with ideas and interpreting knowledge in a new medium. The design process, even my understanding of course material. I was respected by the people in my class because I could help them with tech support. Creating this assignment helped me also to create engaging visual lessons that help my students to learn better and experience the topics we're learning about. So because I work with teachers, they actually will take the assignment back into their courses. I learned AR by collaborating with peers and by having a shared purpose. Just some of the things that my students are saying. And 3 key takeaways. This term actually is a really interesting AI example, and the entire brain lights up, which is just a simple transition, but it's actually an interesting design effect. Number 1 key takeaway is good design takes time. So if you want students to do a really good project and to put in their best effort, you have to take time. And so I have different design goals, and we do this simple creative push and to see if they can be challenged in a different way. And creativity matters, inclusion matters, but they just take time. It takes time to develop. Challenge, then enable. So as I said before, the learning curve is actually quite scalable. In terms of this project, you can do more simple drag and drop, kind of like creating PowerPoint, or you can go all the way up to creating customizable 3D content. And I have challenged some students to do that because they're computer science students and they needed that extra challenge. But the point here is you need to get to know your students to find out their interests and their abilities, and then also to manage cognitive load, because some people can get quite overwhelmed, and then others are actually bored and need more stimulus. And key takeaway number 3 is be change makers. This is actually some digital activism, and I said, sure, that's just a wonderful thing. I love when students come up with great ideas, and that then I incorporate into my own pedagogy. Something we need to think about at schools and universities, which are places in the world that are kind of special in that we are leaders of innovation, we are drivers of social change, and we need to have curriculum and assignments that also reflects the society we want to live in. And this leads into what will be my next slide. But in terms of being change makers, keep your expectations high for all your students and and believe that they can do wonderful and great things, because they certainly and truly can. What I'm doing next with this project, with my students that I'm teaching, is we are taking this keyword assignment and putting it toward the Sustainable Development Goals. So the UN has created 17 global goals that are important in our world. No country is on track yet for achieving them, nor even close. There was a conference I attended a couple weeks ago and found out that in Canada, I live in Canada, I'm not sure where everybody else is from, but they did a survey and only 11% of people in Canada even know what the SDGs are. So we even just lack awareness of these very important global goals that really are humanity's hope for a better future that we need to collectively all work towards. So I'm going to take this project with my students and try to do a community art exhibition, in part just to even create awareness, and hopefully it will also lead to changes in actions and changes in behavior. And that is my final slide, and I leave you with one final question, which is, what does the future of learning look like in a complex and changing global environment? So if you have any questions for me, you can ask them. And if you want to discuss this question, that would be great too. I would really welcome some of your opinions.
Excuse me, can I interject for a moment, Paula? Oh,
Yes.
I'm going to amplify my voice. First of all, I would like to give you my humble apologies that I was supposed to be in the room with you and my calendar got switched, and I'm so sorry that there wasn't someone here to properly introduce you. I want to say that I'm from Calgary. I live in Calgary, so I'm a fellow Canadian, and I was very excited to want to hear your presentation. And so thank you so much for joining us at the summit. We're really excited. I'm happy to bring the Q&A with you, okay? So if anybody, there's a raise hand button down at your bottom right. If you guys have a question, go ahead and click that raise hand button. And I'm happy to amplify your voice so that we can hear. The first question we have comes from Dylan. And Dylan, go ahead, Dylan.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
You betcha.
Great. Hi, Paul. I want to say, first of all, thank you for presenting. I'm curious, when it comes to, you're talking about having tools that have a kind of a low floor and a high ceiling. I'm curious, when it comes to those tools, what kinds of in terms of either just background knowledge that they don't have, or physical or mental disabilities that may end up having a kind of a mismatch in terms of the technologies available?
Yeah, that's a really good point that you raise. And, you know, I think how I think of things is we all need to be the water that raises all the ships and kind of work towards that. And it isn't going to be the same answer for everybody. So one thing, just rewinding back, is I do know that students in my courses, they just don't even know the terms. So there is a fundamental design challenge for me in that I don't want students to leave my course and just have this like really vague knowledge of what some very important terms are. So that's where this all originated from, is me wrestling with this, and also looking towards projects that can be more inclusive and that can be more accessible. But this obviously isn't a solution for everybody, but where it is a solution is for many people. Another good option that I've been doing some work is the Google VR Tour Creator with the 360 images. So that is another one that's not accessible to everybody, but it is one that would let high school teachers and middle school teachers who don't have access to a lot of great tech equipment to actually do some 360 VR work with their students and build some projects of their community. So the part with this tool is It is one that can be used in the classroom. It can also be used for different purposes. So I used it for doing course keywords, but you could really do it in a lot of different like areas. It doesn't have to be ed tech. It could be in other subject domains and like I said, next I'm taking this to the SDGs, so it can be different kinds of content that is content also that's easy to be open, social, and share. So it doesn't, it won't meet the needs for all learners, but it does meet the needs for many.
Okay, thank you, Dylan, for your question. Bill's
Yeah,
two, you're up next.
Oh, great. Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
You betcha.
All right, fantastic. All right, I apologize for coming in late. I teach at a high school in Southwest Virginia. I'm very involved with VISTE and VISTE. I went to a VISTE conference, which is the Virginia Society for Technology and Education. And we had a principal get up who said, he was one of the kickoff speakers saying, threw up a slide, laptops obsolete, active boards obsolete. And he said, guys, guess what the next step is going to be in education? And he showed a slide of all the kids with headsets on. And I guess my question that I want to raise to Paula and everyone else is why we feel that we need to compromise and come up with, VR solutions that we can throw on an active board. Do you all see the possibility of the day when we'll actually be handing out headsets to students? Like, it was Rolf Berman that made that prediction. And even if it's not Oculus Rift hooked up to fancy gaming rigs, at least Oculus goes with using a platform like AltSpace to communicate. I think it's fantastic that I can be talking to colleagues in Canada and sharing ideas. So what do you guys think about that?
Just to chime in, everything for me with ed tech, it comes to, you need to first of all look at what is the problem of learning and then what are solutions. So that it comes down to just very simple for me. What's the problem of learning and what are good solutions? One problem of learning that we have in North America that is a major problem of learning is disengagement. So it'd be wonderful if we didn't have that problem, but we do. So wherein some of these headsets come in, actually it's quite interesting. I'm visiting my daughter who attends Dalhousie University in Halifax, and this is a long diversion, but as I'm here and I had to bring all my headsets and gear with me, and all her friends are in the hotel and my son, and just this, we have this affinity towards new technology. It's the human volition of technology, which is a bit hard to really understand why we have this will towards technology, but we just seem to. So for me, it comes back to the problem of learning. And if we need to get people engaged, we need to think about what are ways that we can get people engaged and so they can have the best possible learning experiences. The other part is making learning so we can be open, social, and connected. So we can be all here together and in a space and able to collaborate. The other thing, right now, we have 180 million children in China who cannot go to school. And the government has swiftly come out with some responses for e-learning programs so that. Yeah.
Really?
So because of that, so now the government's put out different e-learning programs so that students at home can actually keep up with their studies. So again, there is looking at what's the.
The last thing I'd want to do if I had coronavirus is study.
Well, yes, but many students don't want to actually get behind on studies. So it is a way that you can keep up. And when you say that, it is even different in VR. And even the last thing you might want to do when you're stuck in your home is exercise. So I'm just being, if you're in VR, there are a lot of rhythm games that kind of get you moving. So it is just looking again at what's the problem of learning and what are different solutions? Would anybody else like to chime in? I'd love to hear some other answers. It is a great question, and it's a question that always keeps coming up.
So are there any other questions, you guys? Anybody else? Okay, well, thank you so much, Paula. It has really been a treat to have you at this part of this summit. So thank you so much for coming all the way from Canada. Isn't it great, a conference with no travel? So if you will continue the conversation, there is a portal to the right of the stairway out in the lobby that takes you to the social space for educators in VR. So you can head over there and continue the conversation. And thank you so much for coming. Let's all give some love to Paula. Let's make sure that that we show her how much we appreciate that she came.
Go well, everybody.
Dr. Paula, can you hear me okay?
I sure can.
I wanted to apologize. That